Hey, kia ora koutou whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hero News. Chewy, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Oh, good evening. Now, look, I just want to set up something to start off with team watching us. Good to have you all with us. Is that I'm having a little bit of trouble with my audio. So I'm just going to play a little bit of audio, and I just need people to tell me in the chat if you can hear it. Because if you can't, then I'm going to have to do a bit of jiggery pokery to make sure it works. So let me play like 5 seconds of audio here, like this. You can. That's it. That's all I'm playing. I've stopped it. Joey, you could hear that?
No. So
you couldn't hear that
when you were playing whatever you were playing, I couldn't hear that, and then your vocals went super garbled.
Right, we can fix this. I have the power. I have the power. The reason I was singing there was in case it didn't come through. Hey, you, Joey. Well, I look to fix this thing up.
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Obviously, I had a feeling we might be talking about a particular someone today. It's good. It's good.
Yeah,
it's always good when you put up a clip that absolutely blows up my phone with notifications.
Let me say as well, I put out what the show is going to be. We've got journalist David Fisher coming on with just a couple of ticks. I put a notification as to what the show was going to be tonight. Here, I'm going to do this now, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to go. Sorry, I'm going to pick that one. I'm going to go share, and you're going to tell me now, Chewy. Oops, we're not going to do that. You're going to tell me now, Chewy, if you can hear this.
Same thing. As soon as you start talking, it's all garbled.
No, hey? You can't hear that at all. Holy crap!
And it wrecks your audio.
Holy crap, people! Holy crap, people! I don't know what's going to go on here tonight. We will have to wait and see. Hopefully, my tech guy's watching and he can jump in and have a chat with us about it. Okay, so I'm going to have a tutu with us as we go through the night. I'm sorry. Sounds like an adult in a Peanuts cartoon, says Paul. Yes, we have had an interesting day. And I put the clip up for what we were going to talk about. And what we were going to talk about was to do with Easter trading laws, was to talk to David Fisher, and was to talk about Elon Musk. We've had some news come up this afternoon about Mr. Plunkett, and we thought we might talk about that as well. So I guess what I'm saying is, with this difficulty I'm having with my system at the moment, I'm not sure how much we're going to be able to do, but the plan is we're going to do David Fisher, the Chantelle Baker information, and then perhaps Sean Plunkett, and then see what there's time for at the end. And if not, we'll come back to it tomorrow. So let me say to start off with, hello and congratulations and welcome back. Chewy, I've had a scientific experiment over the weekend that you don't know about. I had a 14-year-old in my house on Friday with COVID. And I was, it's actually Thursday. I was in her, no, it was Friday. I was in her room giving her a hug at about 5 o'clock to say, see you later, off to your mum's, have a good time. And then went out to grab some dinner, and an hour later got a text message, just tested positive for COVID. So I was in her room, hugging her, breathing her ear, but guess what? Haven't got it.
Haven't got it yet.
No, it's too long. Chances are now Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, it's 4 full days, and they say symptoms after 2 to 3 days. So
mind you had a dose reasonably recently, didn't you?
That's it. I'm wondering if it's more the antibodies, and maybe we can actually get by with this. So I'm pretty sure I was in the room with a child breathing lungfuls of COVID with her because she's positive, and as of right now, still don't have it. So I'm wondering if those old antibodies, either in conjunction with the vaccine that I got, or the antibodies by themselves, or whatever, have helped me out this time around. Now, I will put a little addendum in this and say, as Chewy just said, as of right now, because who knows what's going to happen tomorrow. If I wake up tomorrow, it might be a very different situation, Chewy, and we might be having some more days off doing this big old thing. Okay, look, we've got a couple of conversations we can kind of have without involving a lot of audio, I think. So we'll get onto those, and then we'll try and do the last conversation. And if it doesn't work, then I guess the rest of the media gets to pick up on it before we do, and we'll have to talk about it tomorrow. But I can't do anything about that right now. We'll play that as it comes, and let's just welcome to the show to start off with, from the New Zealand Herald, journalist David Fisher. David, good morning or good evening to you, sir. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks very much, Pat. Hey, Chewy.
Hi, David. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Thanks very much for joining us. We have had some interactions over the last few weeks, and you contacted me and said you wanted to you wanted to look at some of the interview that we did with Chantelle Baker as a part of your research into writing this article, The Life and Alternative Realities of Chantelle Baker. We'll get into some more specifics, I think, as we go through, but how about we just throw the ball to you and we say it was an investigative piece on Chantelle Baker, her world, her work, what she's up to. If that's fair? My question, I guess, is what did you find? What did you do it, first of all? Why were you looking at Chantelle Baker as a subject matter for a conversation?
Chantelle Baker, largely because she was one of the disinformation dozen that was so named by the Disinformation Project last year, and it's been fascinating watching the evolution of Chantelle over the last 12 to 18 months or so since she first popped up doing online interviews, initially on a dad's channel, and then did a few of her own, and then she was into the Parliament protest, and then everybody knew who she was. Although, I qualify that by saying everybody that was looking at that issue with quite a degree of interest knew who she was. I still don't think my mum knows. I'd been following Chantelle Baker along with a number of others who would qualify as being in that disinformation dozen to see what sorts of things they were talking about, and the underlying interest for me there is that there's a part of New Zealand that's breaking away and is very much developing its own ecosystem, if you like. It's a part of our community that is disengaging from our community. And we saw representatives of that with the people that were outside Parliament protesting last February. And everybody will see people of these sorts in their community, or will have run into them or bumped into them on their local Facebook groups. And as that community disengaged, it's begun to attempt to develop its own ecosystem. And one of the things that it's doing as part of that is telling its own stories. I was really fascinated by the idea of that and wanted to look more into how that happens. How do you get a community that fractures, breaks off a chunk of the community, and then sets up its own services like media to minister to that community? And if it is doing that, which it is, how is it doing that? And there's also a why is it doing that as well, which is always a really tough one to answer when it comes to motive. And that's what led into having a dive into Chantelle Baker and her background and what she's doing now.
I guess I'm wondering, I mean, we're talking about it tonight, but how relevant is this conversation still? I mean, 12 months ago when the Wellington protest had wrapped up and there was a lot of noise around it, is it still as prevalent? Because like you say, lots of people don't know. Yeah. Is it still as prevalent today? Is it still as valid today? Is it still something that's like leaking into our society in a big way like it was perhaps 12 months ago?
I see it a bit like the cracking bonfire that we had here on Saturday night, right? Which is that initial flare-up, which is the Parliament protest. That catches all the stuff, and that was a huge flare-up. By the time it rolled past midnight, it was that hard core that was still burning in the middle, and would be going for days and days afterwards. Yeah. That community, or those voice leaders or the leaders within that community, they're looking for traction. They had a community that they served at the time of the Parliament protest. Once the heat of that had passed and some of those people went back to their normal lives and did their normal things, and the mandates got cancelled, and and we stopped having lockdowns, and all of the immediate pressure came off, and all it really needs is another pile of dry brush to be chucked on top of it, and there'll be another big flare up again. And so I think Parliament protests were a really big flare up. It was really interesting when the Hawke's Bay cyclone event happened. Yeah. Because all of those old news people, or not all of them, but a lot of those old news people flooded to Hawke's Bay. And as it turned out, that wasn't the next big thing. Looks like the next big thing was trans rights, and what happened in Albert Park and Posey Park and that visit. Because those guys have been hot on that ever since that came past. And so I think one of the difficulties that we have as a society is that the degree to which that hardcore community disengaged from New Zealand created a real rift. It's going to be really hard to heal that rift. When you look for those flare-up issues, what you're doing is building a bridge to the rest of the community and inviting them across. It's different from how you try and draw people back from that disenfranchised community. But when you hit those trans issues and you ask people, don't you want your daughter to be safe in a bathroom without a man being in there? It's a message that most parents are going to stop and have a think about. Most of those parents are going to think, actually, this is a bit ridiculous. But there will be those that will think, oh, hey, maybe I should go and talk to those people some more. And so that's sustaining the ecosystem that has developed.
Yeah. Couple of questions, specific ones. Was Chantelle Baker born in 1993? Because it seems that the biggest criticism the alt-right seem to be giving is, you said she was 30. She's only 29. This whole thing must be fake.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, Avi Yemeni, this very controversial figure from Australia, put out this clip going, did you know that they said she was 30 and she's 29? So I was like, I mean, just out of interest, is it that she's born in 1993 and she hasn't had her birthday yet? It doesn't matter, but what is it?
Yeah, so the way that came about, there's two versions of the story, a print version and an online version.
Yeah.
In the production chain beyond me, one of the people that worked on the layout and so on, the magic thing sub-editors do that save me every week, they had read in the story that she was 22 in 2015. And so they wrote what's called a stand first, which is the introductory couple of paragraphs that go on top of the article. And they had written into that she is 30 years old, and then sent it to me to say, hey, is this right? Is she 30? To which I replied, I said, I don't know. I know that she was 22 in 2015. I don't know whether she's 29 or 30 now. So the sub-editor went back, took that out of the print version, forgot to take it out of the online version. The online version goes with an error that was in there that was known to be an error, shouldn't have been in there in the first place. The point being is, it's what, and we're going to talk about this later on tonight, David, is that the opponents of this are like, this is a terrible article. Everything's in it wrong because they got her age wrong. It's like, it's not that big a deal. And the other thing I wanted to know is, I think you said in your article, this is just for clarity, she did that trip to Napier or up that direction to bring all this water in, of which most of the money got spent on the helicopter ride. And by the time she got there, the army had basically had all the resources they need to provide safe, clean drinking water for everyone. Is that correct? The Navy, yeah. They've got a desalination machine, which is an amazing bit of kit. plonk it on the ground, pump it full of seawater, hit the whiz bang button, and drinking water comes out the other end.
All right.
So,
Hey,
yeah, that was it. Helicopters are expensive. I mean, the idea that you're going to get a shitload of really, really heavy water up to Napier and then just duck it over the hills. There were, as Red Cross said at the time, there's better ways to help. Give us the money and we'll spend it on those that need it.
But that wouldn't have got the likes, David. That wouldn't have got the clout. The love hearts on Instagram. That wouldn't have worked if they'd just given it to Red Cross. And come on.
Yeah, well, that may well be the case. I mean, I believe that, and certainly in the Water for Wairoa effort, I think it was misguided, but I think that the intent was good. Yep. And I find that with a lot of things that Chantelle Baker does. She comes across through the videos as an incredibly empathetic person. And that degree of empathy that I pick up from that comes from speaking to the people that are her people. She's genuinely warm, genuinely interested in what they're saying, and genuinely wants to fix the problems that they have in their lives.
I'm sure Chewy's got some questions as well, but I guess not my last question, but certainly the last of this part is the big part about the conversation is, what did you actually find? Like, what did you actually find in the investigation?
I found that she wouldn't talk to me. That was a shame.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I was really sorry not to have the opportunity to talk to her. That's how I came into contact with you, Pat, as you were saying earlier, because I was trying to find anywhere or anyone that had interviewed her at any stage, and as far as I can tell, you guys are pretty much it. And it was an extraordinary interview. I think if I've found that we have in New Zealand the development of such as is developing in other countries. A phrase that I came across was ideological entrepreneur. And that seemed to me to describe really well some of the characters that are involved in the alternate reality media scene. And I call it the alternate reality media scene. It was I found that if I examined many of the things that Chantelle Baker said, they were, well, conspiracy theories. I'm trying to find, they don't make sense.
What they are, David, what they are, respectfully, and I'm not trying to talk down about it, is they're always wrong. Like, they're always wrong. Like, we put a clip out. I've been, since we've done that, and I've sent Chewy a bunch of links for people who are watching that. Hopefully Chewy will be able to do the audio tonight. But we put up the link today that you've probably seen, where we went over some of the claims that she made, we couldn't debunk in real time, about myocarditis. And they're always wrong. Like, they're always wrong when they come down those conspiracy lines. Tomorrow, I'm going to put out a clip where Chantelle Baker, and you'll have seen this, David, so is Chewy, so is some of our patrons, talks about the Labour Party actively saying that they're the party of socialism. And in real time, I go to the Labour Party website with her, and she can't find it anywhere because it doesn't say it. They're always wrong. Yeah.
And so one of the things that's quite striking is that one of the reasons that you have a news media is to understand what's happening in the central machinery of government, and then explaining that to people in a way that's going to make sense. One of the things that was a pretty consistent feature with Chantelle Baker's handling of news events was her misunderstanding of how things work. And so that's how you wind up with the Māori wards debacle, where she seemed to think that there were special hospital wards that were only for Māori, and then had confused it with the fact that there were council wards that were available to Māori, and muddled the two things. There's repeatedly references, and I can get how you get this, because you get junior journos that do the same thing. They muddle up the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet with the Prime Minister's office. And sure, the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet sounds like they work for the Prime Minister, but they're actually part of the civil service. They're like one of the central cogs in the whole machine that holds things together, and they're obliged to follow public service neutrality and all the rest of it. The Prime Minister's office, they work for the PM, but you'll mix up the two and assign motives or behaviour to one that belongs to the other. And when you're trying to make sense of how the country works, those things actually, they make a difference. Yeah. But when she's when it's not conspiracy theories, a lot of the opinion that is led comes from a place that seems largely discordant with a New Zealander that I'm familiar with, right? So the utterances to the people of Hawke's Bay that they needed firearms to keep themselves safe, that was a very odd sort of a thing, particularly given how volatile that situation was at the time. And
also her constant claim that she doesn't support violence. And she doesn't ever say anything that supports violence. That's a bit of a strange anomaly between those two statements.
Oh, and that extraordinary statement that she made when she's being interviewed by you guys, which was.
Well, should we play it? Should we play it?
Yeah.
Have you got that link to my Twitter? I'm throwing it to Chewy because my audio is playing up. But if you've got my Twitter feed there, Chewy, we can just play the first 10 seconds of that clip that's now had about 20,000 views.
Is that one that you sent to me, or the one off your feed?
The one on the one off my feed, my Twitter feed, the one that talks about this one here. I can probably show you the clip on the screen. This one that says that one there that looks like that. I don't want to play a push play because it's going to screw up our audio. That's up to like nearly 19,000 views. The extraordinary claim that she made. And whilst you're looking for that, Chewy, we'll actually just show people the article because it's a big article as well. You've done a lot of work here, and what. So this is where I am. I'm a bit too close to the bottom. I thought it'd be closer to the top, David, but who are we? So this is what you say. This is about the violence. She distances herself from the talk of violence in an environment in which police became increasingly involved in death threats against politicians, from 38 cases in 2019 to 101 in 2022. Threats against former Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern went from 18 in 2019 to 60 in 2022. But Baker says people should be able to make the threat. In an interview with Pat Brittenden for his online Big Hero News show, she said, "I don't think this government or the media respects the amount of pain everyday citizens have been put through. People are allowed to say unvaccinated people should die. That's been the rhetoric when the vaccine was first rolled out. So people are allowed to say that but the unvaccinated aren't able to say screw you or I wish I could put a bullet through Jacinda," which I agree is terrible to say, but I would personally never say it. But I support their right to say it. You want to play that, Terry, just so we can hear actually from her own mouth herself? You grab the screen and play that bit of audio. Just the first 20 seconds will be enough.
So people are allowed to say that, but people who are unvaccinated aren't allowed to say, screw you, or I wish I could put a bullet through Jacinda, which I agree is terrible to say, and I would personally never say it. But when
you
I've seen
support their right to say it.
I support their right to say it because I think that if they don't,
can we be really clear? You support the right of someone to say I'd put a bullet through Jacinda.
Well, because people have said that about me, right? People have messaged me that are pro.
And the counterpoint from her is typically people have said it to me, and I just look. This is the debate that's been going on over the weekend. It's blown up a little bit on my Twitter feed. When our stuff blows up, David, it's had 10 or 20,000 views, not like hundreds of thousands. My point being is that, and I've even got the law in front of me here. It is a criminal offence for someone to threaten to kill you, or threaten to seriously injure you, or to send a letter, text, email, or other written material containing this kind of threat. So containing this kind of threat, not even necessarily to you. The person can be jailed for up to 7 years of this. I think it's unequivocal to say if someone says, now, because the defense is free speech, free speech in and of itself, by its nature, is public speech. You say whatever you want in your own bedroom, right? That's not a free speech issue. In other words, if you're claiming free speech, it's a public statement. It's out in the public. It's for other people to hear. So for someone else to hear, I want to put a bullet through XYZ, then that's a threat. Then that's criminal activity. So Chantelle Baker is supporting criminal activity. Now, Chantelle Baker is not. Some people in my Twitter feed have been saying, she should be locked up. It's like she hasn't done anything. She hasn't broken a law by saying they should be able to say it, but them saying it could be breaking the law. So she's supporting someone potentially breaking the law. It makes, I know, I don't get how people can't see that as clear as it is to me.
I just think it's not very nice, actually. I'm not going to go trawling through the Crimes Act when I think about something like that. The thing I think about when one of our journalistic go-tos for media has to be to work in service to your community.
Yep.
And I find it hard to see what community benefit there is to endorsing somebody's right to talk about murdering another person.
Yeah. Chewy, anything you want to jump in there? I've been monopolizing this conversation over that.
I've been wrangling the chat. So look, one thing to me is be very clear is you've definitely hit your mark. She does not seem to be a happy camper at the moment. And there's a lot of tweets and a lot of people. She's essentially weaponizing her followers against this article. Have you noticed any flack coming your way? I saw someone refer to the Herald as a left wing. They published a left wing hit piece, which I went a little bit cross-eyed at that point. But I mean, what is the fallout for you as a journalist? I guess after you put out an article like this.
So I've had a couple of years of covering the development of this alternate reality ecosystem, and I find that when I write about whether it's Baker or Counterspin is another one I've written about, Voices for Freedom, and actually, I'm trying to think if I wrote about. Oh yes, I did. I mentioned the platform to do with that guy Yevi Harmony. Is that right? Yeah, and there's a really interesting thing that happens. Right, is that I get abuse and threats, and some of it's really colourful, and some of it has involved references to my wife or children in the past, and really ugly, really violent. But what I find is really interesting is that when I get name checked by those people, I get heaps more, and it's really, really angry or really vitriolic. So I've actually had more direct emails to me from pieces that I've done that have referenced Baker in the past, because she has then directly tweeted about me, and that sends a spike in response. Right. This time, her I don't know, frustration or whatever it might be, is directed at the Herald. And so there's been a lot of followers that have gone to Herald Social and jumped on there and had a crack at one thing or another, but not necessarily personally directed at me. If I get name checked, then it really spikes, which I know for female journalists, particularly getting name checked on Plunkett's show. Is just seen as an open invitation from some really vile people to say horrible, horrible things to them.
What's next? What's the next investigative piece, David? It should be on independent media based out of Dunedin. You should do a full editorial on that. I think that'd be fantastic.
Well, I've done the alternate reality media space, and there was a New York Times editor that coined the phrase reality-based media when it came to reporting about Trump. So I can do the reality-based media ecosystem. I find that space a really interesting one for me. It's been fascinating for some time, and I'm working on a piece that tries to understand whether the recent surge in trans anger, trans hate, the noise around the trans community has suddenly massively increased in volume. Yeah, so I'm looking at doing a piece on that.
Yeah, well, look, just before we head off and do some other things, I mean, you obviously would have heard the conversation around Sean Plunkett today having to do a big old retraction. You got any thoughts on that?
We've all had stories go south on us.
Yep.
At one stage or another. I've certainly had that happen, and it's a crushing and devastating experience. Having said that, I did think "don't believe everything you read on the internet" was a really, really good line 25 years ago, and journos have been picking it up since then.
Well, we've also, David, speaking of, we were one of the few people to speak to Chantelle Baker. We've also got the full clip. We're going to play some parts of it next. And the thing about the clip, which people will see, is the utter joy on his face and in his tone that he thinks he's got a gotcha on Jacinda Ardern. And I did a tweet quite that basically said, when your personal ideology, your frustration or your vengeance against a person or a political party or a whatever organization way is higher on your radar than what journalistic standards should be. That's the kind of thing that happens. Because it's not just a mistake, it's that there is joy in this gotcha that he's got. And all of it's all been taken down, but guess what? We've got it. We'll be playing.
Well, fascinating, because I was quite interested in watching the clip, and I was sorry that it had gone before I got to it. But I feel even more sorry for him, actually, because I do feel sorry for him that he's come a clagger. There's nothing worse than someone that thinks they've climbed Everest and then it just works out they hit their head on the door on the way out. And yeah.
But I think though we've all done it. I mean, I'm not a journalist, but I've written blog pieces and worked for radio stations and news and current events and that sort of thing. And we've all had to step into that field of like, that was wrong yesterday. In fact, we've done it here on the show. That's what one of the things we pride ourselves on, David, is if we're wrong, we're wrong. And if our opposing view is better educated than us, then we give them credit for being so. But people will see when I play this in a minute. People will see when Chewy plays it. There is a very large percentage of this which is utter joy he has as what he thinks he's catching out Jacinda. So,
oh dear.
Maybe you have to jump on the internet, or maybe you can watch the clip when we release it tomorrow, David. But look, for now, thanks for joining us. If people want to see more about what you do, obviously the New Zealand Herald. Let me just bring back up. I'm going to steal it back off you, Chewy. Bring back up the add to stream. The story. This is the story you've written out there. It is called. Sheesh, it's long, bro. That's dyslexic. Struggle with this. The big read is The Life and Alternative Realities of Chantelle Baker by David Fisher, senior writer at the New Zealand Herald. Thanks for joining us tonight, dude. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
No worries.
All the best.
Thank you.
We're not going to quite leave this conversation yet, Chewy, because we're going to go on to a few other things about this. So we've showed the clip. This is the other thing, because we've had conversations through the weekend, and I wanted to address a couple of things, right? The first is, and I haven't responded to anyone on Twitter. And one of the reasons I haven't responded to anyone on Twitter is, and with no disrespect intended to anybody, to be honest, if we have someone with 17 followers jumping on board and having a crack and you respond to them, then what ends up happening is they keep responding and you keep responding and they keep responding, and eventually you go, oh, fuck, I'm bored of this. And they go, haha, I've won. So that's one of the reasons I haven't done any responding to this at all. The second is, it's like what we're doing here. And one of the things I agree with to do with David is the intrigue around this community. I also think the intrigue around this community for me, and we've said this since day one, this is the thing that people are going to struggle to have a crack at us on. We're consistent, right? We are. And since day one, my biggest feeling for some in that community, not the disinformation dozen or the instigators, but in the community, is one of empathy, because they've been either actively tricked or they've got bad information to put them in a position where they're worse off. Anything around the vaccines and COVID and all that kind of stuff, people choosing not to have it and losing jobs, it was a choice. And I feel so sorry for them that they've got bad information that's led to that. So we've been empathetic from day one, without question. Those people at the top, the Chantelles, the counterspins, they're a different kettle of fish. It's not a kettle of fish, whatever.
Yeah, it is.
As he said, kettle of fish. What the
kettle of fish? Because you're a psychopath who cooks fish in a kettle.
I don't feel so sorry for them, because they're, I would say on majority, many of them are grifting. I can't say all, because I struggle to have absolutes, but many of them are grifting. But the people who are coming under them, who are believing them, I mostly feel sorry for, because they've been, it's like being in a cult. Like everyone knows here that I love religious stuff and I love religious talk. I've spent quite a lot of time also investigating, looking into and helping people get out of cults, religious cults. And there's so many parallels. I don't ever feel angry about someone being in a religious cult. I'm like, man, you've been fooled. You've been tricked. We need to help you. So and although it's very difficult to do this because that line between the positions is so hard, but that's typically how I feel. Now, in saying all of that, so I haven't been responding on Twitter, but I thought I might talk to a couple of things tonight, Chewy. And this is and I'm not bringing up anyone's tweet to embarrass them or show them up. This is all public record because it's on Twitter. So I thought I'd just bring them up, right? This one here, for example. So when we've been disagreed with, these are what people say. First time I saw Doc, we're not Doc, we're BHN, but we're on the Doc Studio YouTube channel. I got excited. A sensible New Zealand-based podcast. It didn't take long before it looked like money had got to him. So people think that we've got money and that's changed our perspective. Go back to episode 1. Nothing's changed here. In fact, we may become a bit more nuanced. Everyone grows and learns. But this is what's been going around the internet today, that money's got to us. The other thing that's been going around is, that's a tweet from Chantelle that someone sent me, is us being massive leftists. Now, I want to make this really clear. I won't speak for Chewy. Chewy, you can speak for yourself. I am not a far leftist. In fact, we got kicked out of that boat if we wanted to be in it. And people who are fans, quote unquote fans of the show, will know that. We are not affiliated with the far left. The far left rejected us vehemently. Do you know why they rejected us? Do you remember why they rejected us? They rejected us because we fucking talked to Chantelle Baker. We did an interview with Chantelle Baker, and that got us rejected by the far left, which was a good thing in the end because it gave us our lane. One of the other ironies, and this might be telling a little bit too much about what's going on behind the curtain, is several of those people who kicked us out of the boat who are in the far left are now tweeting and supporting these comments and stuff that we are making about Chantelle Baker, showing video clips about Chantelle Baker that they kicked us out of the boat for recording. So it's a very strange situation. So to say that we're far left is ludicrous. Well, okay, sorry, Chewy, I'm not speaking for you. To say I'm far left is ludicrous. We actively say, in fact, we've done a political compass. We've shown people where we are. We basically sit on the left and we sit down near libertarianism. That's where both Chewy and I sit politically when we do the political compass. But the far left, the people that are accusing us of that, using it as a weapon, it's not a weapon, that they don't want anything to do with us. That's been very, very clear. Because we play each ball on its merits. Should we say it? Should we say the walk and chew gum? No, let's not say that tonight. And because if it's worth doing, we do it. And if it's not, we don't. And we've talked to far right people before, and the far left have hated us for it and piled on us for it as well. So we're not in that camp either. And I'm sorry if you're going to try and pigeonhole us, but it's very difficult to pigeonhole us when we're, I don't know, we're the shape of a chicken, not the shape of a pigeon.
Yeah, like I'd quite easily say that I am quite left, but I am not far left. There's stuff that the far left don't that just makes me roll my eyes. And my position can change from situation to situation,
of course,
but I'll generally fall on the side of marginalized people, minority groups, and basically anybody that literal Nazis don't like. I'm on their side. So that's where you can pigeonhole me. And happy to be there.
Here's the other thing, and I'll bring that tweet back up again, then I'll put up the Chantelle tweet as well. The other thing that they are showing absolute no knowledge of what we do is this. Did you speak out against the violence at Albert Park? And Chantelle Baker, I haven't got the whole tweet, sorry. That's pathetic. I was saying that your fake outrage is hilarious. Do you care about real physical assault of women at the Posey Parker? Whatever. Now, the other thing that's hilarious about that, and this is our consistency, is did we, Chewy?
Yes.
Did we spend 2 shows talking about the violence? Did we say that the person who got the tomato soup tipping over the head, the assault charge was probably right and it's for the courts to figure out? See, we do. And so that's why this thing doesn't impact certainly me, and I'm assuming not Chewy, is that they don't know who we are. They don't know what our positions are. And when they attack's too strong a word, when they have a crack based on your political ideology, money, fuck, I wish we had the money to be bought off by, or things they think you think, what they've done and avoided the whole way through is they haven't actually talked about any of the content we shared. They're not actually putting forward a salient case as to why what she said wasn't repugnant. They're basically saying, well, you're a leftist, so you're wrong. Or, well, money's bought you out, so you're wrong. It's like they're not actually addressing the substantive part of the conversation, which is the most hilarious thing. And look, there's people in the chat right now who are completely anti who Chewy and I are and what we do. Give us a salient point. We'll put it up in the chat. Give us a salient point as to what we've said tonight, like that we can verify that's real, and we'll put it up in the chat. We're not afraid of that. We're not afraid of interacting with people from the other side. The ridiculous nature is when people make statements that I make it very clear they don't know who we are or what we talk about. And there's quite a bit of that over the last couple of days. Yeah. So you wouldn't even have said anything about the violence. Well, actually, we spent potentially definitely two, maybe three shows talking about the violence, not necessarily about just supporting the trans community and the community that we're opposing. I'm in that camp. I oppose Posey Parker, but we also can walk and chew gum at the same time. The violence that happened there was abhorrent. The actual violence. Not the pushing and shoving or the Posey Parker deciding to basically jump into a crowd with no police escorts. That was bad choice. But we did. That's the thing. We did talk about that. So, and I don't want to say come at us. I'm not trying to actually challenge anyone with crazy views, but you don't know us. And I would actually encourage you to watch what we do. Because, as we'll see very shortly when we talk about Sean Plunkett, they claim to be things like the Free Speech Network or the Free Speech Group, whilst they censor speech and whilst they ban and block people and whilst they remove tweets. Actually, we don't do that here at all. We very, very rarely block someone from this room. We let people talk. I don't block people. I don't think I blocked a single person over the weekend. I didn't. I know I didn't over the weekend on Twitter. That's what we do. We just chat. We give our perspective. You would like it. You don't like it. You join in. All good. Joe, anything you want to jump on there before we move to Mr. Plunkett?
I have been putting someone in the naughty corner. I'm just going to cop to that. I haven't banned him, but I have been putting him in the naughty corner because he's very annoying tonight.
Okay.
So
if you're going
to come in and make statements and make claims, present your evidence, we'll definitely have a look at it. But if you're going to tell me in the middle of a show to go and look for it, no. just no. Flick me a message if you want and I'll run it down.
I'll just stick around. We'll give you Chewy's phone number shortly. You can just give him a call.
Oh, no.
All right, now my audio is playing fuckery tonight. So Chewy, you're going to do this, and I'm going to have to give you the actual time codes for this because you don't have them. So the Sean Plunkett clip you can bring up, and we're going to start that at 0, and we're going to go to 1 minute and 9. Now, just bear with us for a sec before we push play there. So Sean Plunkett in the weekend has been talking about we are going to expose what Jacinda Ardern's job is next. I don't know if they even said take down, but the theme is we're massive expose. Now, we're not going to play all of this, but we're going to give you 3 clips. The first 2 clips are Sean just having so much fun with his audience, try and get them to guess what her job would be. So let's have the first 1 minute and 9 seconds, Joey. I can't hear it. If you're playing that, Chewy, I can't hear it. Chewy?
Sorry, you can't hear it.
You can't hear that? People in the audience, can you hear that? Did you click the little tab for audio when you came in to share your page?
Maybe I didn't.
You got to click the little tab.
Let's try that again.
Just one moment, please, listener. We'll be with you shortly.
There's
a little tab that says share audio or something on it. You need to click that as well. So when you select your screen, make sure the tab's clicked. And we go again. So we start at 0 and go to 1 minute 9.
No, I didn't see about audio. Let's have a look.
Just be with us. Stay with us. I'll do a little dance for you. Do a little dance. When you share your screen, down on the bottom left-hand sort of the share screen, as you're selecting the screen, there's a tab that says tick. And you click entire screen.
We're looking in a different place. I was looking at window.
Dun, 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 just share entire screen. Dun, 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 dun,
My
dun,
entire
dun,
screen. What if people see my secrets?
dun, 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 dun. Right, let's have a look. So not being able to hear the sound, JK says best Plunkett has ever sounded, to be fair. And someone agrees with JK while Chewy is setting that up for us to hear. Yes, we're saying audio. No audio. Someone thinks Sean looks ill. Another person, Sean Plunkett has never sounded so good.
It's all right. I'm on it. I'm on it.
You're on
Tim.
it?
I found it.
You're on it? So
Ah,
she's saying, have another crack.
there we go.
Have another crack. As I sing, I will probably cut this out afterwards when we upload the audio video. John says they're not talking to you, Pat and Joey. They're talking to their base. They're keeping them in their little circle. Yep, I think that's probably fair as well. Right, tip the little tab.
Is Jacinda's new job working for Facebook or big tech? No. I've got to keep this going because I want to see what ideas you come up
Look at
with.
the smile.
Sean, is Jacinda's new job an advisor to Twitter? That's from John. No, and I think, I just want to say as an aside, I think one of the most interesting things, and in a very tiny way, my experience last week showed this, the woke leftists have lost control of Twitter. And that's why certain well-known lefty agitators and extremist trans rights agitators, including Sanjay Hatatua, have been busy blocking people all over Twitter and basically retreating from Twitter. Twitter is now a bastion of free speech. Crazy speech a lot of the time, completely off the wall, lunatic speech. But Twitter is no longer a place for wokeness where the woke rule. And of course, I was part of that battle. The fact they took me down with some algorithm and I was back up in 4 days, that tells you that Twitter under Elon Musk is a bastion of free speech.
Yep. All right. So there's 109. That's the first one.
good Lord.
Now you can skip forward to 3 minutes 17. So one of the things I want to show you, especially if you just heard the conversation with David Fisher, is the utter joy that Sean Plunkett has in these comments. The utter joy he has is exposing, Jacinda Ardern for the, and I don't know if he uses these words, but he's basically saying for the hypocrite, for the grifter, for the, all these things that are. So he's playing this game that he's loving with his audience, saying, guess what job she's got. So 3:17, this is going to 4:36. So this is just over a minute.
Okay, thanks, Ken. Sean, has Jacinda's job got anything to do with, no, I can't read that out on air. Sean, Jacinda's new job has to have something to do with fish and chips, maybe an advisor to McDonald's. Cheers, John. Is Jacinda's job with the WF? Yeah, no, it's not. Is she buying fish and chips and finally learning about the real world? Jacinda's new job working for Meghan and Harry? No, she's left them to go and work for Wills and what's her name? Kate. Is Jacinda's new job a chairman to some board? Not that I know of.
So he's really building this up, yeah.
Saving whales who are transitioning into dolphins? No, I don't think that's her new job. This is fun. Sean, I don't care what Jacinda's new job is. Next, Andy. Oh, come on, Andy, work with me here. Is Jacinda employed as company for a lonely queen consort like a Shetland pony? Oh, stop it. I'm not going to read that. She's working for King Charles. I don't think so. Off to BlackRock. Cheers, Rick. No, not as far as I know. Something to do with climate change? No. Is she joining Kate at the Disinformation Project? Well, they've always been in lockstep.
There you go.
Is she working? No, not going to read that out.
That's pretty much
all right. Before I do this, I got to.
Okay, and then just scroll to 6 minutes 40. So you can see that Plunkett's really building this up. It's a really, he's really having some fun with this. So I said 640 is 6 minutes. He's really having fun with this, right? He's really like this is let's throw them out, let's reel them in, and then we're gonna knock him down with the news. We're gonna knock him down with the big news, the big news coming. So this is the big news, and I think the actual story was called something like "We Expose the New Job for Jacinda Ardern." So this is an expose by Sean Plunkett. The expose, let's hear it. This actually goes for 4 minutes, so I apologize for all those people who are saying things. They want to, because you got to feel the sense talking to David Fisher about this, right? You got to feel the sense that this is not just a reporter or a journalist reporting a story. This is someone who is absolutely just having the time of their life, exposing the hypocrisy of the enemy of the state, and just having so much fun and joy doing it. Now, I might get you to stop a couple of times in here, Chewy. We might have to Sam C to this mofo, but let's go from 640. And we'll
She used to work, before she was Prime Minister, she used to work for Tony Blair. And Tony Blair, very populist, great communicating Prime Minister of Britain, basically launched that bad war in Iraq and everything with the Americans.
That bad war.
Tony Blair has become a multi-millionaire. And you know how? You know how? By giving speeches.
Ooh.
Yes, Tony Blair hooked up with a group called Speaker Booking Agency in the United States, charging, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of New Zealand dollars per appearance. And he is now a multi-millionaire, largely on the back of his speaking arrangements. So how convenient that the day after her resignation and her valedictory in Parliament, Jacinda Ardern pops up as a speaker for hire, a mouth for hire with Speaker Booking Agency in the United States. Exactly the same outfit that has, Tony Blair on its books. So if you're near the internet now, if you can search and listen to us, Speaker Booking Agency, and search Jacinda Ardern, and there is, and this is what it says about Jacinda Ardern. Jacinda Kate Laurel Ardern. I didn't know about the Laurel. Basically says she travels from New Zealand. Her fee range is not specified, but I'm going to make a wild guess.
I bet you
Pause
are.
there.
I'm going to say that.
Okay,
This is great. This is my favorite bit.
Like every good journalist, the fee is unspecified, but I'm going to have a guess. Now, it's really important to hear this because by the end of this rant, his guess is basically what it is, right? You listen to how he changes his tune, right? From the guess to like, she's now earning it. This is what it actually is. So let's keep going, Joey.
That Jacinda Ardern will be charging $200,000 US at minimum per appearance. That's 400,000 New Zealand dollars a gig.
It's not, but anyway.
And you have to fly her to wherever in the world your corporate conference is being held, and you play her the lolly. So our Prime Minister, of course, she doesn't have to charge for her other work. She could make in a week a couple of $1 million New Zealand. She is on the same path as Tony Blair. And I'm just amazed that given that she's so open and transparent,
with a smirk,
she wasn't excited to tell John Campbell or whatever other gushers interviewed her, I'm really excited to tell you too, I'm going to cream it for the rest of my life. I am on the international speaking circuit. And of course she'll be in demand. Of course she'll be in demand. She is a world-renowned figure. She is loved by many overseas. And I'm not getting down on Jacinda Ardern.
No.
I mean, good work, honey. Work that international profile. Of course you can do this. There's nothing illegal about it. There's nothing immoral about it. It is what people who end up in this lucky position, socialists or not, it's what they do. And I say good on her for cashing in. But why weren't you a little more transparent in telling us about the great new gravy train you are now riding for the rest of your life? And a gravy train, it has to be said, based largely on your public service in New Zealand. Based largely on your public service in New Zealand. 400K seems expensive for a speech. No, 200 grand US, I'd say, would be a fee, and that converts to around 400,000 New Zealand dollars. That's one speech. Then there's the travel time, which I've got no doubt will be first class to wherever in the world that she is speaking. So this is bloody nice work if you can get it, and very few people can. This, in some ways, might be the most successful thing that Jacinda Ardern has ever done, and it's a hell of a long way, isn't it, from the fish and chip shop in Morrinsville to a 400,000 a gig or more. And I've applied. I was a bit naughty yesterday. I applied and said, I want to book her. How much will she cost me? we could all chip in at the platform and get an interview with her for $400,000.
All right, I think we're done. I think the most hilarious thing about that is he was so fooled by this obvious hoax. On this website, there was 2 dead Supreme Court people that you could book. He was so fooled by it. He interacted with it. Let me say this as well. All those people who were complaining about Chantelle Baker, complaining about David Fisher being out by 3%, right? By 3% with her age, 29, 30. He's out by, what is that, 20%? 40 less 80, 10, yeah, 20. He's out by 20% with his even his guesstimate. So that makes this whole thing pointless. Well, the whole thing is kind of pointless. But let me just say one more thing, and I wrote this down. He says this of Jacinda Ardern: a gravy train based largely on your public service in New Zealand. Mr. Plunkett, your fucking gravy train right now is based 100% on the money you earned as a public broadcaster in New Zealand. The $3 million gravy train you're on from Mummy and Daddy Funder is based on your public service as a broadcaster at RNZ, and primarily at RNZ, but also Fair Go you can throw in there as well for profile. So go fuck yourself. There's the first thing. The second thing is, who the hell cares if someone leaves politics and goes and has speaking engagement? What's the big deal here, Chewy? Let's get to the second part of this conversation. Everyone knows what's coming, but do you want to, that's the first time I'm assuming you've heard this, because I think we're the only people in the country that probably have got this. Maybe spin-off, is it?
It's the first time that I've listened to essentially the whole thing. And I mean, this surprises no one. God, he's a smug prick, isn't he? Just the whole time. Just slimy, you know. Oh, but I'm not down on Jacinda. I'm not down on her. I'm not bagging her. Of course you are. Everybody can see that. Your listeners, your fans can see that. We can see it. You talk about transparency. We can see right through you, mate. But also someone that has worked in media for as long as he has. He is a veteran broadcaster.
Yep.
I looked at this website, and just as you've picked out, there are people that definitely are not engaged in speaking. It's a collection of celebrities, and everything is like, oh, please contact us for details. And be like, oh, I'm sorry, that person's unavailable. Yeah, you've just put it on the website to pad out your roster. Of course you're going to put someone like Jacinda or Tony Blair on there, whether you can get them or not.
So, and I'm sure, you know, there'll be agencies out there that would put faces up like Jacinda Ardern or whatever, which this is not the case. This is just a straight hoax, right? But if there was, and they might say, yeah, we'll book her for you. They'd say it's $500,000, and they'd go to Jacinda and say, well, we've got a $400,000 speaking fee for you. And they'd clip the ticket. Sure, that's possibly something that happens around the world. This is not that. And as Spinoff did at 3:00 this afternoon, no, Jacinda Ardern isn't joining the paid speaker circuit. Hoax. The former Prime Minister has appeared in an ad on a US-based talent website promoting one fringe media outlet to say, I didn't read that before. Oh, come on. Hey,
that's good, right?
Well, but no, but hang on. The Spinoff did a full article about Sean Plunkett's new thing, and they gave him a massive amount of press. Why can they call them one fringe media outlet now? They've actually got an article in here talking about the startup of the platform. That I don't know. I mean, you've on some level they've kind of given them exposure. You can't really pull it. I feel uncomfortable with them pulling away from it now. But anyway, one fringe media outlet to say she's riding a great new gravy train, but Jacinda Ardern says it's not real. Now, I've heard through the grapevine, none of this is confirmed. It's an honest held belief. It is also an allegation that Jacinda's had lawyers involved. Now, I've heard that. I don't know that to be factual, but it's a comment that's come up by a few people. So after this came out at 3:00, I happened to be sitting in my studio, which is why I got that video, because I downloaded it immediately. I don't really want to help the platform, a fringe media outlet, but evidence that your staff don't know what the fuck they're doing is you put your apology out before you took your video down, you fucking morons. So the apology came out on Twitter, and I saw that, and I went onto thing, and it was still there. Now, I've just ruined getting any exposés in the future, but that just goes to show how ill-equipped they are. Certainly the staff there are. That's what happens when you hire 22-year-olds to do media. They put out a tweet that apologized, and then maybe 5, 10, 15 minutes later, they took the videos down. So this is what came out this afternoon on Twitter. The platform saying, could all who shared or retweeted a story ran about Jacinda Ardern having signed up to an American speaking site please delete or correct it? The website was a hoax. Founding editor Sean Plunkett accepts full responsibility for this error. And tomorrow with Sean Plunkett, Sean's apology right at the top. Now, I don't have any idea if there's any legalities involved. However, it's a pretty prominent situation to put it at the top of a tweet and to be asking your listeners to actually stop talking about this, guys, stop talking about this. Stop it. Stop talking about it. The other thing, and I only know this because I grabbed some video footage, is that there's a tweet that's been removed as well by the platform Bastion of Free Speech. Shall I show you that one?
I think you must.
Okay, here it is. Sean, sorry. There's one other one. Sean Plunkett, who talked about dopamine, who, when he wants to say something on Twitter, goes straight after people. At 7:25 p.m. tonight, for some, it's a random reason. There's no real reason behind this. Going to sign off for today. I think I might have been hit by a motorcycle. I wonder why he was signing off tonight. I wonder why Sean Plunkett was getting off Twitter tonight, off all nights. Could it be that every tweet that they put out, every message that they put out, had a raft of what the fuck are you talking about? Now, this tweet was also deleted. And I have it because I recorded some video. I shared my screen and recorded it for the clip that you saw. If you haven't seen it, you should go have a look at my Twitter feed. And it said this. The platform did this. Well done, the spin-off TV. We was had bumpy old job, this journalism. No, Jacinda Ardern isn't joining the paid speaker circuit, the spin-off. Very light-hearted. Very like, this is all journalism. This is all journalism. There's no
who hasn't strolled into an online scam and smeared a former prime minister? Who hasn't done that?
That tweet no longer exists. They deleted it. I wonder why. Because it made them look even worse. Because all of the responses to it were like, hang on, what do you mean journalism? Journalism's not putting out there literal fake news. This fringe media outlet that says, wow, we call out the fake news, are the disseminators of the fake news. And I have to tell you, if you go and have a look right now on Twitter and you put in, like Jacinda Ardern was trending, lots of those tweets don't say, oh, by the way, they were wrong. It just takes the initial accusation by Plunkett and it's running with it. Yeah. So this is now going around the world in certain circles as fact, and it's not. And one wonders if the platform is a little bit concerned that some of business mummy and daddy's money, again, might be tied up in a court situation over a libel court case. Again, I have no knowledge of that, but it wouldn't be an unusual situation from here. What are your thoughts, Chewy? That's all. I rest my case. My case is rested.
Yeah, I love it when. Oh no, I was going. No, I'm going to say the phrase. I'm not happy with it. I'll preface this. I love it when Sean shows his entire ass. Yeah,
I don't like that.
Maybe no, I don't like it either. I don't know why I did, but I think it's the combination of the smugness and the surety, the absolute rock solid surety that he'd cracked the code. That he worked it out.
Yeah.
Even when he says, oh, I'm just going to take a guess at the price and then go on like just with, he was so sure. And then to rapidly have to try and put a Band-Aid on that open wound that it just opened. I mean, it's spectacular. Tomorrow is going to be amazing.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because he's going to have to try and backpedal this and probably break some land speed records doing it.
And probably minimize it. That tweet that they sent out about bumpy old thing, this journal, that's minimizing it. I wonder if they got advice. Again, complete speculation that minimizing it's not the right thing to do. Absolutely, mea culpaing is the right thing to do. Maybe that was it. I just think look, I mean, you could hear David Fisher, our Herald journalist, when he joined us earlier, talking about he feels a bit sorry for Plunkett. And on some level, anyone making a mistake like that and getting embarrassed, there is an element of empathy there. But I just go back to, and now that you've heard it, Chewy, just the absolute joy in his voice, the way he was speaking with absolute pompous, joyful, exposing the one that is the hypocrite. It wasn't journalism. And that's why I said in one of my tweets today, and I'm paraphrasing, but when your ideology or your distaste or dislike for a person is rated more highly than journalistic practice, this kind of thing happens. And I don't think anyone can argue that.
I think it's sad that someone that has had such a long career, and you just look at it and you go, oh, you are circling the drain. This is bad. As I said on his Twitter page, this is mad cringe, just to keep it straight for the kids. He won't know what that means. But yeah, I mean, to get taken in like this, do his whole career, did he just not do his job? Did he just palm that off to someone else? Someone else will fact check it. It's fine. Yeah, I'll just run with it. But yeah, when he adds on the smugness and the venom, I mean, this is a guy that goes to the parliamentary press briefings. What the hell? He's just going in and saying conspiracy nonsense now, or anti-trans gotchas. It's embarrassing. But yeah, he's got essentially a blank check for the next couple of years, thanks to the Right Family Foundation. And he wants to talk about transparency. Yeah, get out.
Yeah. Probably a very good time to move into our very last subject for today. We're not doing Easter trading laws. I'm sorry, guys. The time's just Plunkett came up and he inserted himself and his big ass, as Chewy said, his whole ass into our show tonight, and we couldn't really not do anything about it. We might come back to Easter trading tomorrow. You may not.
I'm sorry for bringing that in. Just as far as like your guess of whether Jacinda is going to get lawyers involved and that sort of thing, there's two ways, right? Part of me absolutely wants that to happen. Absolutely destroy him, take him for everything he's worth. And then the other part of it is, I think Jacinda just doesn't even give him a second of her time. Like, you are a flea that someone
somewhere. Like, I mean, look, I don't want to say that we're doing anything to Chantelle Baker this week, but I'm going to put up some clips that I think show a little bit about what she's about this week. Someone somewhere eventually has to do something. You know what I'm saying? It's like someone, if there's defamation, if there's a criminal act, if there's a civil act that's happening to you, at some stage, somewhere, somehow has to do something, or else that people keep on doing it. If nothing else, like, I'm a big believer in leading a horse to water. Yeah. You can't make them drink, but you can lead them there. So exposing the bullshit. I mean, our new tagline is not exposing, but whatever.
Exposing Sean Plunkett's ass one day at a time. Is that not it?
No, I don't think so. It's like, and I'm not saying I wish legal action on anyone, but at some stage, if someone's doing the wrong things, there needs to be consequences, and the consequences shouldn't be an open checkbook.
Play the clip.
Yeah.
Oh, you haven't got consequences queued up here.
Yeah. But look, let's just have a real quick super chat about this. It's not gonna take long, because it does actually involve a little bit of, and Plunkett's an example of what we're doing. This is the Elon Musk situation over Twitter. Musk admits BBC among least biased in a row over Twitter government-funded media labels. If you haven't heard this yet, Twitter is starting to put, and you can see it there on the screenshot if you're looking, the BBC has now a little tag under their thing saying government-funded media. Elon Musk has described the BBC as among the least biased media organizations after the broadcasters objected to being labeled as government-funded media on Twitter. The BBC contacted Twitter after the designation was attached to the main BBC account. The label links through to a page on Twitter's help center that states state-affiliated media are outlets where government exercises control over editorial content in various ways. The BBC added in its statement, the BBC is and always has been independent. We are funded by the British public through the license fee. Now, this is going to shock a few people, yeah? I don't have a huge problem with this, with one proviso. That's every other fucking media outlet also has where their funding's coming from. So not to beat a dead horse, but Plunkett's funding is from a family trust that gets $300 million a year for their early child daycare centre things. There was a conversation on the Plunket a couple of weeks ago where they were talking about charter schools. He didn't divulge that to the listening audience. Oh, by the way, potential conflict of interest. My funders actually run educational facilities. So when I talk about educational facilities, there may be a conflict of interest. So on the platform, it should say funded by. If it's going to say funded by the government, it should say funded by who they are and what they're interested in. Rupert Murdoch, Fox News, Sky News Australia. What are their narratives? So I don't have a huge problem with it, as long as all the other media outlets that have big, massive backers are also tagged with who their backers are and where their interests are, Chewy.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we've talked about this, right? Why are these guys, these utter loony nutbars, able to get funding to spin up billboards and advertising and studio time and look really legitimate out of essentially nowhere? Like, we know that these guys are on the grift, and then it should be the same for us, right? Where's our swanky studio? Like,
I've got a good studio. This is awesome.
Yeah, yours is great.
Yours is bigger.
Mine's my gaming cave. Follow the money. I want people to follow the money. Exactly. That's the question that I should have asked our first guest.
Vicky was saying, including Chantelle Baker. So on her media account, where is the funding? I mean, that whatever the name of the radio station thing that they're doing at the moment is, I think I've heard it's been funded by Voices for Fuckwits. It should be on the tag on their thing, funded by what? Because if what it is we need to know who funds you because we think that there is a conflict of interest, then sure, let's open it up so we tell everybody where funding is coming from.
Yeah, because I'm going to put on my conspiracy theory hat here, right?
Ooh, yay.
Like, there is disinformation pushes coming from state entities. You look at what the Russian government has done to destabilize things in the States and other Western governments and societies and that sort of thing. The Chinese doing the similar thing. Money at a state level, you can just print more money and just give it away.
Yeah.
So spinning up Chantelle Baker's vanity project would be pocket change to some of these guys.
Yeah.
And there's been studies about how much was going out in the run up to the American elections, potentially with Trump. That's being looked at now. It's certainly in COVID times. There was a lot of disinformation. So yes, follow the money. Who is funding these guys?
Yeah. So let's just have everyone. Who's funding us, Chewy?
No one. No, our Patreons. Including there's no one from the CCP. So we're fine. We'd put it up there if we did have one.
Thank you for joining us tonight. That's it. We're done for the night. Thank you to our patrons. If you've enjoyed what we've done tonight, if you're a lurker, if you're liking what we do, then one of the ways you can actually get behind us is to head to patreon.com/Big Hairy News. Look, we've still got a gap here. Your name could go right there. Your name. You could even make up a silly and funny name and we'd still probably put it there. But that's only obviously if you're a producer. We have about 7 layers of patrons. And if you want to be a part of what we do, if you've enjoyed what we've done tonight, this is what we do every night. You can just head to patreon.com/Big Hairy News. And that's who we are. And look, it's been an interesting weekend, fighting the bullshit since 2021. That's how I just remembered our tagline all of a sudden, fighting the bullshit since 2021. And we will continue to do so. And we've already got plans for this year. We've got plans for drinking games around, sponsored by some drinking company, around, the election coming up to New Zealand and that sort of thing. We're going to have fun. We have fun. But here's the thing. Yeah. And I'll say this again, not to try and sort of blow us up too much, but people are going to struggle to try and take us down a peg or two. And I'm not saying that out of arrogance. I'm saying that because we're consistent, right? Yes, we talked about the violence at Posey Parker. Yes, we said the violence should be, police should investigate it. It should be in court. You know, yes, I said in my tweets this weekend when the response from Chantelle Baker was, well, it happened to me, is if it happened to Chantelle, if Chantelle Baker got death threats, it should be reported and it should be investigated, as it should
100%.
if it happens to Jacinda Ardern. So this idea of, well, it happens to me all the time, therefore it can happen to you. So, like, if you get punched in the face by someone illegally, do you then go, well, I've been punched in the face, so you should absolutely be open to getting punched in the face? Of course you don't. It's ridiculous. It's ludicrous. So I'm sorry, we're not going to. I'm not actually putting this out there as a challenge. I don't actually really necessarily want any heat or anything. It's not like a game I'm interested in playing, but I know that because we're consistent and because we play each ball on its merits, we walk and chew gum, we look at each, and if the right needs to be congratulated, we do, and if the left needs to be chastised, we do. Trust me, we do. Then, you know, come at us with the facts, and we'll say it again: come at us with the facts. Find the hole in our argument. Every time I offer this to people, I say, that's cool. Now find the hole in our argument and let me know about it. I struggle to ever hear from anyone. I'm not saying that means we're perfect. We make mistakes, but people seem to have an ability to go, well, you're left, meaning so therefore you're wrong. Well, okay, sure, we're on the left. Now let's talk about the actual conversation. Let's say again, the Crimes Act says a threat is a criminal activity. So saying you'd like to put a bullet through Jacinda and saying that publicly is a threat. That's criminal activity. Someone supporting the right to say that is supporting criminal activity. Right? Where's the hole? Come at me. Well, don't come at me. Tweet me. Message us tomorrow. Get on. Well, I mean, I'm not. When I say come at me, you know, there are some nutters out there. I'm not interested in any of that. I don't typically engage, but you know, I'll read it. I'll read if some people have some good, valid arguments from the opposing side. Of course, I'll read it. That's what we do. All right, Shoemeister General. Anything else we want to touch on tonight?
No, this has been a fantastic show. I love every time we put up a thumbnail which is irrelevant for the actual content that we end up doing. But I'm sure we'll touch on some of these topics tomorrow, unless Sean goes on another bender.
Let's do this before we go. We haven't organized this. So can you go to my Twitter feed? And I'm going to go somewhere else. Can you go to my Twitter feed and can you find the clip that I actually put out with Sean Plunkett with the music at the end of it that I sent to you? Because I want to play people one more thing to send them off into the night, because there was something very funny, I think, with
Sean. I just wanted to ask.
Every time I watched it, I laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed. And we've got to play another clip first, which is going to be this one. I'm going to send you a clip, Chewy, into the thing. Bear with us, people. So we've got to play this one first. It's coming to you in the private chat.
I'd ask again.
Play this one first. There you go. It's in the private chat. And then we're going to play the clip off my Twitter feed. So you'll need to share your screen again, brother. Because I think that it's worthwhile playing these last two just for a bit of light-hearted relief as we get to the end of the show. So thanks for joining us tonight, guys. It's been really good while Chewy sets that up. And I'll have my person. So go to the start of that. So this is Sean Plunkett asking Christopher Hipkins about what is a woman. And the reason I want to play this is not for the content, but for what Sean Plunkett did with it when it comes to the audio. Just scroll back to the start there, Brian. Hit play.
Sean, I just wanted to ask you.
It doesn't like this.
Refresh your browser, see if it works. So it's been a good night, guys. I've enjoyed it.
Sean,
and,
I just wanted to ask you.
Well, look at that. I wanted to end on something a bit lighthearted, and it's not letting us do it.
So there's no lightheartedness. Just sadness.
Thank you, Free Soul. Appreciate you. Thank you, John. It's good company. Well, we're here 4 nights a week. 4 nights a week. You can come and see us 4 nights a week. And yeah, and sometimes we're here Friday nights as well. In fact, I was here Friday night with whatchamacallit, the Naked Pastor. It was fun as well. All right, so we'll play those tomorrow night where we'll get our system sorted out. But we got actually did it, Chewy. We got all the audio out. Nothing didn't play.
Paul's got some down-home wisdom for us.
By the way. We don't know what's going on, but I can't
hear
you.
him.
Oh, I can hear you now. Just
okay.
Do you want to try that? Do you want to play that again? That might have been my problem. That it didn't
I have no idea what's going on.
Tomorrow night.
You can lead plunk it to water, but a wet horse still smells really bad.
We'll leave it there, guys. Thanks for joining us tonight. We'll catch you tomorrow night from 9 p.m. for another edition of Big Hairy News. Hey, Ray.